Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Coolermaster V1200 Platinum. Now this is their top of the range power supply, 80 plus platinum rated, 100% Japanese capacitors, fully modular. They've got a 0 dBA mode, 7-year warranty. It literally ticks all of the nerdy boxes that you could possibly ask for. There's a lot of info on the back which in fact we can show you quite easily because of the awesome focus on this new camera. And if we want to have a look at some of the specs, they're there. There's a lot of other specs which you can click and go and see on the Overclock 3D website. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open the box now so that I can show you what's inside. Okay then, so when we crack the box open, this is what we're greeted with. We've got like a specs and installation manual, user manual, all the stuff. It does actually say to mount what I would call it being upside down, but anyway, we'll cover that in a minute. There are two lots of cable bags. This one's got your CPU and all your PCI Express and that in. Now as we can see, this is the only one that comes with like a braided end on it, but all the cables are black. We kind of let that zoom in. There we go. All the cables are black. Oh, I love the way this focuses now. All the cables are black. We do have a black braid. It's quite a dense braid as well. I can't see the cables through it, but obviously that's going to be quite difficult where the cables inside are black. But then all of the others are just flat cables like that. There's 8 6+2s I will add, so you can do quad SLI. 6+2 means you've got the 6-pin option, and then obviously you can click that on and you get your 8-pin option. So you've got the ability to do both. Obviously out the box it's got enough cables for 4 graphics cards as well. And then in the other package there is the power cable, because I have had a little nose already. Power cable, your Molexes and your SATA cables as well. All flat and black again as well. Have a look on the OC3D websites for how many cables you've got and the split ups between SATAs and Molexes and how many SATAs you have on each one. This is another little item that we have, and I'm just going to whiz this open. You have to connect this to the power supply, and I'll show you where you have to do it in a minute. I'm doing a really bad job of getting it open. But it goes in one of your expansion slots in the back, PCI slots as I call them. Come on camera. There we go. It's just getting confused because of all the light coloured stuff behind. And then you've got a auto and a hybrid button. Now the auto just lets the fan do whatever it wants and it spins up as and when it wants. If you stick it on hybrid, it will go passive for a certain period of time. And then once it gets warm, that fan will kick in, but it'll run for pretty much most of the time with general and normal use, completely passive. And if we get this part out, what we'll do is we'll keep that in shot. I'll move all the boxes around. Now this bag, I know it's going to sound really nerdy, but it's one of the nicer bags that I've felt for a power supply, because it doesn't feel horrifically plasticky. Some of them come and they're like this, and they're that kind of material. If I put it up near my mic, it's that kind of scratchy plasticky material. This is actually quite soft, and it's the type of thing that you might expect a sports, like a training jacket or something to be made from. Anyway, when we pop it out, that's the back, and you can see the specifications and stuff there. And then it's also got it's set up so you can have the fan down, or the fan up, and the stickers are in the right position, which is obviously what we want. You've got the hybrid fan switch there, which falls in a good place for me because I would have it with the fan mounted up, which means the cable will be at the back, which means you can put it around and hide it on your lower PCI if you want, or if you need it to go between a graphics card or something like that, you can still run it around the back and run it up the motherboard area, and it can actually go behind your graphics cards. 135mm fan there. I actually quite like the silvery effect. I like the fact that it's got a little bit of design into it rather than just a plain fan grill. Now we've got our, if I turn it around this way I can actually see because it is written up, there we go. 6 PCI Express, 2 8-pin CPUs, so we've got those PCI Express, then 2 8-pin CPUs, then we have your hard drives and your SATA and stuff, and then you've got your power supply, your 8-pin, Tom, get your words out. These are your 24-pin, there we go. One thing I will say though is you've obviously got 2 8-pin CPUs there, which it says, and 6 PCI Express connectors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But there's 8 PCI Express connectors in the bag for SLI and Crossfire, so I'll have to check what that's all about. Anyway, if we zoom this in, so when you have a look, we can see that there, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to bring up a little slide for you. You can see some of the specifications on this are a high quality AC socket, which is obviously your alternating current socket. They've got a double EMI filter for extremely clean and stable voltages. That's to help with your ripple. So the fact that they've got 2 of those on them, which means we should have a very, very low ripple. So it's got a full bridge with LLC. You've got 100% jack caps. There's been a lot of internet kind of chit chat about Japanese capacitors and stuff recently. Some pro, some people not against them, but some people saying that you don't necessarily need them. This power supply comes in at £215 though, so we would expect some high quality capacitors to be going in there. And then it's got a highly efficient integrated heatsink design. Highly efficient, they say. It's not really something we can test though, is it? Anyway, so it all looks the part, doesn't it, boys and girls? Right then peeps, on to the load tester, and before I switch it on, because it does make an awful lot of noise, we'll have a little bit of a run round. First of all, I did say about the PCI Express cables previously, and the extra 2 PCI Express cables, because there's 8 of the actual connectors that can go into your unit, but the extra 2 come, we have got some daisy chains. Now daisy chains, some graphics cards will require you to use individual cables for everything, but obviously with a daisy chain it means that you've got these 2 in your graphics card and then you've only got 1 cable to hide. I always try and use daisy chains, and I have to admit over every graphics card that I've tested there's only really ever been a couple that have needed individual cables, and believe it or not that's the AMD ones. A lot of the Nvidias, especially like the 780 Ti's and stuff, I always run them with the daisy chain. So my advice would be run the daisy chain, see if it works. If you get graphics problems, not problems, but it probably just won't even start, try your individuals, but like I said, I prefer the tidy look. Anyway, moving on, we've got the auto and hybrid switch for the fan. We're going to run it on hybrid for a minute, see how long it takes for the actual fan to kick in. What I have got set up is 3 profiles, and it will be these 3 lights that you need to watch. The first one over here will be 200 watts. That's kind of a nice desktop rig, because obviously 1200 watt power supply, if your rig's not pulling that kind of wattage at idle, then you're probably not, you're not going to need the 1200 watt in the first place. My rig Orca with a 3970X in it with the overclock and the graphics cards and stuff, at idle runs at about 220, 230 watts. So that's why I've gone with a 200 watt base, and that's obviously for normal use so that we can get to see the ripple and also the volts. Then we've got 50% and 100%, so 600 watts and 1200 watts, and that's really so that we can test the fan, look at the voltages, but also look at the efficiency, because obviously we're going to be looking for around the 93% efficiency that we're going to need for that platinum rating. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop this on, and it'll all start to hum as the fans in the unit and everything start. What we're going to do is we switch the unit itself on, and then when I first switch the load tester on, the fan will start up initially, because obviously that's like just turning your rig on in the morning. So the fan's gone on, and then it's gone pretty much straight off again because we've got it on hybrid mode. Now if I switch this off, Right, we've got power good signal, and then we've got the shutdown time as well. Power good signal is 330 milliseconds, so quite a good one there. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is, if we have a look around all the 12.10s or 12.13s, as you can see, that's your 12 volt rails. We've got the 5 volt rail there, 3.3 volt rail there, and a minus 12 volt on that one. This is your plus 5 volt VSB. So that's your voltages. Now, if we flick this up, it's actually kicked straight in. It was on 600 watts. We've now got it running at 2, like I said we would have done. So at 200 watts, which is a relatively good, basic idle speed on Facebook, using YouTube, all that type of stuff. 90.2% efficient. 200 watts being pulled by the power supply, but it's actually using 220 watts. So that's what's going in, and then that's what's going out. So you're losing 21.5 watts essentially in the power supply itself. The other numbers like this, 241.9, that's the voltage. 242 there, look, you can see that's the voltage going into the unit, and then this is the hertz or the frequency of the actual thing itself, which is obviously all UK specific. If we go up here, we can see the ripple. So at 200 watts, there's 25.6, or we'll say 26 millivolts of ripple going on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press the button out of shot, and I've just pumped that up to 600 watts. You saw a bit of a spike. You see we're at 600 watts now. We're now at 92.7, 92.8% efficient. We go up. Like I said, you can see the ripple there. 17.8, 18. What I am going to do is I'm just going to very quickly, we'll show you down here. We go, press this button, we can go back and I can show you the voltage is there. So we're all, well above 12 again. It's pretty much the same as it was before. But I'm now going to go pop that. That's now running 1200 watts. The fan's not started yet. See, there was a little bit of a dip in the voltages, but they're still all above 12, which is obviously a very good thing. But if we pop up here, we can now see that the ripple has now gone up. So we're looking at about 32 there. But what we're going to do is I'm going to leave that running for a little bit now, let that fan kick in and let everything come up to temperature, and then we'll come back to this. Okie dokie, so she's been running for a little while now. You can see that we've got 32 millivolts there. Strangely, in some of the other tests that I've done, I have seen that up to 38. So I think it's probably just because I've not been running it for all that long, and maybe it needs to warm up, or maybe it's got better as it's been used. It's actually got a better, but anyway. So it's 32 at the moment. I have seen 38 in other tests. So you can see here 1212 watts, nearly 1213 watts there being pulled. 91.3, we'll call that percent efficient. You can actually see this 1327, that's actually what it's pulling from the wall. Voltage going in is 236.2, so there seems to be a bit of fluctuation here at the moment. I might even have to get that looked at. Anyway, 49 hertz there that you can see. If we flick it back down again, 92.9, so practically 93% there. But anyway, so the 1200 watts with the fan running, it's actually very, very quiet. It's quite a positive point about it. But I will say, considering some of the stuff that they've said about, the ripple suppression and everything in their PR, it's probably, I would probably say, it's a fair chunk more than I would have expected. I was expecting that to be reading 22, not 32. So we're looking at, I think it's probably a third too high than what I would have possibly expected. But anyway, we'll talk about that more in the conclusion. So the only other thing that we need to really look at while it's at 1200 watts, we flick that round, we can see that the voltages are all still quite strong there, all above your 12. G and H are actually the strongest over here, but you can obviously see that we're down to 12.5, 12.6. So this could actually all be, these could be not being pulled quite so much maybe with the internals on this. But anyway, the other ones have dipped a little bit, but that's still, they're all still quite healthy, still quite even, and obviously a good bit above 12 there, which is what we want. It's when they go much below 12 that we would start to worry. So what I'm going to do is, there we go, you can see we're back on 1200 watts, sorry, 6, 200. I'm going to turn it off and give the power supply tester a chance to cool down. But that's that side of things sorted. Let's move on to a conclusion. Hokey dokey then, peeps. So you've made it to the conclusion, and I will try and keep this as brief as I possibly can do. So the award that I'm going to give it is the Silver Award. Now, you may be thinking, oh, that may be a bit harsh, Tom. But my kind of thoughts on this are, you know, the fan profile is very good. It does stay nice and quiet. The auto, as you can see, it does kick in very low in the wattage pull range. 200 watts is an idle for a system that's probably going to need this many watts from a power supply anyway. So you can have that fan running if you want it for peace of mind, or you can hit it onto the hybrid profile, and obviously then it'll only kick in when it has to. If once it gets up to temperature, it will just kick in, and it is a nice curve on it as well. It doesn't kick in with too much force. So you know, the fan side of it and the quietness on it is a nice positive. The volts on it, or the voltages I should say, are pretty strong as well. They're quite even. But really my only kind of bugbear with the unit as a whole is the fact that I personally think that Coolermaster overhyped that ripple suppression. When you have a look on their website and the PR that they sent out, and like the reviewer's guide thing that they sent to me, I was expecting much lower ripple readouts than what I was getting. I kept referring to the X1500i because that's kind of about as good as they get at the moment, but it also empties your wallet for the privilege. But that at 1200 watts was 9 millivolts of ripple. The way that the Corsair stuff read, you know, it's 3 times better than anything else on the market and all that type of stuff. I don't know what they were comparing it to, whether it was like a really old unit or anything. But these kind of, this would have been how I would have just expected this unit to have been anyway. So without all that, you know, oh, it's so many times better than this and much lower ripple than that. For a 1200 watt power supply, you know, I would have been expecting under 50 anyway. If it had gone above 50 millivolts, then I would have been screaming from the rooftops that there was something wrong. But more the fact that, you know, they said it was the best thing since sliced bread, I was actually expecting it to have been significantly better. So at 1200 watts, I kind of, in my head, I thought, well, it's not going to be AX1500i standards, but I was thinking, you know, it was going to be around the 20 kind of, you know, around that kind of ballpark, and, you know, that would have been amazing. But with the way it kind of come out, being around, you know, up at practically 40, 37, 38 millivolts, it was a lot more than I was, was expecting basically. So as far as it's concerned, the millivolts are, and the ripple suppression on it is still very good, but it's not as great as they kind of made out. Basically, there was units that were made, you know, 1200 watts units that were made, you know, maybe 2 years ago that were putting out these kind of millivolt levels. So it's not, you know, it's not the type of thing, it's not quite as good as they've made out essentially. And the problem, the reason why, and this is the reason why I've kind of marked it down as well, is because a lot of people will grab hold of that, oh my god, it's got all this better ripple, and they've not really followed it up with any results. Because a lot of people kind of do worry about that ripple, because ripple is what kills components, or can do over a, you know, period of time. And so it's almost like they've kind of overhyped that marketing to try and get people to buy it. And that's the reason why it's stuck in my teeth, and I've not particularly liked it, because like I said, it's a very good power supply. It's as good as a lot of the other ones out there, but it's also putting out the type of results that I would have expected to have seen a couple of years ago. So, you know, it's almost like they've overhyped it to try and get the people that don't necessarily follow up with reviews and that type of thing to go and buy it. So if we were reviewing this as kind of a bulk with a lot of other ones, this one would still have performed very well. But like I said, just the way that they've kind of gone about certain things, I didn't particularly like that. So that's why I've marked it down essentially. It's still an expensive power supply as well. You're looking at well over 300 quid to be able to buy this. In some of the shops I've looked at, you're looking at 350 quid. But if you're going to be needing a power supply that's 1200 watts, then you're going to have a monstrous system anyway. So obviously with this, we've got all of the PCI Express cables and stuff like that. So it could be perfect for a mining rig. It could be perfect maybe if you've got like a real high-end performance system and you want it to match a Coolermaster case or something like that. Then you're not going to be getting a ridiculous, you know, you're going to be getting a good strong unit. They've got the warranty to back it up as well. The only thing that would be nice is it would be nice if the black cables are great. It's a nice kind of easy way to get it into a rig without it looking too offensive. But it'd also be nice if maybe Coolermaster could follow suit, because they seem to say that, you know, they've got a very strong kind of modding sort of background. I don't think it would hurt if we maybe saw some other colour cable options, or, you know, cable kits that we could buy as an optional extra. Because once you've kind of gone this far, you spent 350 quid on a power supply, spend another 60 or 70 quid, so maybe they're red and they match the rest of your rig, or, you know, add a little bit of colour in your ROG themed rig for argument's sake. I don't necessarily see that would have been a bad thing. And let's face it, options and choices and, you know, all the little things that you can get afterwards are what make a huge difference. Little things make the biggest difference, essentially. So, voltage, good. Fan, good. Looks, pretty good. Cables, you know, definitely better than some of like the old Enemax fucking horrible things that they used to throw out. Ripple, it's okay, it's good, it's where we'd expect it, but nowhere near as good as they've made out. And obviously if you need a power supply this size, then you should be spending a good amount of money on it as well, because you should never skimp on your power supply. Other than that, like I said, I just think they've overhyped that Ripple thing a little bit, so that's why I kind of nudged it down towards the Silver Award, and it's more as a kind of a bit of poke to Coolermaster. Don't, you know, kind of overhype these things and not expect somebody like me to pick you up about it, you know, just to try and get yourself a couple of extra sales. Probably going to have the Coolermaster people on my back about this now, but never mind, it's going to be on YouTube before I'm going to tell them about it, so it's tough titty. So, OT3D Silver Award, very strong power supply, should definitely be up there if you're considering, you know, you need a power supply at this kind of level. But one thing I will say is that around this price range, there are a lot of 1200 watt power supplies that you should be considering as well. One thing I will say is also, do you really need 1200 watts? We have done a video about wattages and stuff like that, so consider your choices wisely. But one thing I will say is, you know, with the way this performed, there's a lot of others out there that perform exactly the same, so don't go necessarily believing all the hype and stuff. And I would urge you that if you're here because you're thinking about buying this, then go and have a look at some of the other manufacturers that are out there as well, and weigh things up. I'm not telling you not to buy the Coolermaster one, but weigh things up before you make your purchase. But that's it. I'm going to love you and leave you. This is Tiny Tom Logan with his droid t-shirt on. In fact, right, we'll do this, look. In the comments, how many can you name? Tiny Tom Logan out.